If you're fully vaccinated and you're outdoors, you need, and not in a big crowd, you no longer need to wear a mask.
President Biden making the announcement that it's time to relax recommendations on when to wear a mask. It's based on CDC data that shows people who are vaccinated have a low risk of getting or transmitting the virus. Texas lawmakers are easing restrictions on mask wearing at the Capitol.
There being 99 ayes, 46 nays, H.R. 333 is adopted.
On Thursday, members approved a measure to lift mask requirements in the Texas House. Before, the rules required people on the floor and in committee rooms to wear masks. Now masks are optional. The move comes as new COVID cases keep dropping in Texas. When the mask rule went in place at the start of the session in January, the state was averaging nearly 18,000 new cases. This week, the average stood at 2,200 cases per day statewide. So cases are dropping, but do Texans feel safer? New polling is giving us insight into how people across the state view the risk of the virus and the promise of the vaccine. Joining us now is Jim Henson from the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Josh. Good to be with you.
For the past year, you've been polling Texans on their level of concern about the spread of the coronavirus. The president and state lawmakers seem optimistic. How concerned are Texans about how the virus compares to what you've seen it in the past?
Well, as you might expect, the level of concern among Texans overall has decreased a lot since the outbreak of the pandemic a little over a year ago, and noticeably since the fall and winter when the pandemic was really raging. But the pattern isn't uniform, and the differences are most evident by party and race. A year ago, the share of Democrats who reported significant levels of concern was about twice as large as the share of Republicans. Fast forward to a year later, this April, it was almost 4 times as large among Democrats compared to Republicans. So the overall level of concern is decreasing, but not uniformly.
Since the start of the pandemic, you've been polling Texans on what activities they feel safe taking part in too. Everything from shopping to going to a bar. What are people comfortable doing now, and what's still causing concern?
Yeah, this is one of the more interesting results. We ask people, about more than a dozen activities, and we've done this several times over the course of the year. Again, not surprisingly, Texans as a group feel safer about a much larger range of activities. On that long list of activities that we asked about, a clear majority only felt unsafe doing 3 things: going to the gym, going to events in indoor arenas, and going to a bar or a club. The list of things that a majority of people felt safe doing was 3 times as long in April as it was in February. So people are easing up about going out, even though there are still areas of concern and, again, still partisan differences.
The president says the country is on track for what he calls more normal celebrations on July 4th, but he says the key to keeping on track is having more people get vaccinated. What does your polling show about how Texans feel about getting the vaccine?
This is a real glass half full, glass half empty area. On one hand, on the half full side, the share of people who register either resistance or reservations about getting vaccinated against COVID has declined a bit from nearly half in February who said that they were in some way reluctant or outrightly not planning to get a vaccine, down to a little more than a third in April. But on the half empty side, there's a big partisan gap in those who say they've been vaccinated. 72% of Democrats versus 44% of Republicans who report having already gotten the shot in this sample. And a third of the folks that are resisting getting vaccinated, that's still a big share, even if you account for people that may not be planning on getting the vaccine because they've been infected or for other medical reasons. So there's still what seems to be a kind of persistent pocket of resistance to getting vaccinated out there.
All right, Jim Henson from the Texas Politics Project, thank you for your insight.
You're welcome. Good to see you, Josh.
You too. Learning more about how the brain works.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could find a cure for bipolar condition or schizophrenia?
The effort to establish a new institute in Texas that could change lives.